Hello again, everybody. You're going to explore with We Travel some of the best places to visit in Italy, the third most visited country in Europe, even though it's one of the youngest countries in Europe. It has about 62 million visitors every year. That's almost twice the population of Canada. Italy is famous for its beautiful cities, with historic sites, pristine architecture, fascinating works of art, and a rich culture that includes its fashion, its vehicles, and of course, its pizza. So let's see together the best places to visit in Italy that you absolutely have to visit. Now without further ado, let's jump in. Number 10. Naples. Coming up first is Naples, the exuberant city that always has something happening. Naples is beautifully chaotic with flair that you can't find anywhere else in Italy. It's easy to get drawn in by the colors, the narrow streets, the stout neighborhoods and houses, and the aesthetic that just screams to you. Naples has a fine assortment of attractions, each more interesting than the last. Visiting places like the catacombs of San Girano, Galleria Borbonica, the Royal Palace, Castel Nuovo, and Castel Ovo. These are fine places bearing roots that extend deep into Italy's history. There are also huge churches like the cathedral, which dates back to the 13th century, and the San Domenico Maggiore. You can also go shopping at Galleria Umberto and Santa Luisa. There you'll find some of the best shops and cafes in Naples. If these places feel like a drag and you want to have real adventures in Naples, then you have to visit Vesuvius, an active volcano in mainland Italy. It was responsible for some historic disasters, but more on that later. Number 9. Sicily. Have you ever heard of Sicily? You probably already have because you're thinking of The Godfather. But Sicily has a lot more than warring mafia families and men wearing suits. Like many of the places in Italy, Sicily is a place of culture and history. It's an island with great beaches and panoramic views and so much more. Did you know that Sicily has the most ruins and historical sites from Greek history outside of Greece? There's the Valley of Temples in Agrigento, a large complex of tombs and temples that date back to 500 BCE. And they are in amazing condition. There's also the Parco Archeologico della Neapolis. It's arguably the largest theater in the old Greek Empire. It has a lot of great features and even an underground area known as the Year of Dionysus. But I think one of the major things that stand out in Sicily is Mount Etna, a mountain that is beautiful and mysterious at the same time. Mount Etna is filled with volcanic vents, lava flows, and hot springs, all of which contribute to Etna's ever-changing height. You can visit Etna by train or by cable car. Sicily also has popular towns such as Taormina, which has an assortment of ruins from Greek history. You can also visit the beach and the Aeolian Islands nearby. Number 8. Siena. Known for its variety of art and culture and its historical rivalry with the city of Florence, Siena lies in the Tuscan hills of Italy. Its pride and joy is the Cathedral of Santa Maria Assunta, which is famed for having more exhibits than most museums in Italy, which is saying something because Italy has a lot of museums. Other than its ornate decorations and mosaic, it also has artworks from popular artists throughout history like Donatello, Bernini, Nicola ad Giovanni, and many others. Siena also has great places that date back to medieval times. The most notable is the Piazza del Campo. It's considered to be one of Europe's finest medieval squares. You can also check out buildings like the Feciottone, San Domenico, and San Francesco. And if you really want excitement, you can visit Il Palio for some horse racing. You'll watch horses and their riders who are bareback race for a silk banner. It's funny if you think about it too much. In the end, Siena has so many more great locations to offer, and a visit there is very satisfying. Number 7. Lucca. By now you're starting to get a sense of the architectural masterpieces that are all over Italy. Honestly, if we were to make a video on the great buildings you'll find in Italy, it would be hours long. That's why Lucca is a favorite destination for a lot of people. Not just because it's one of Europe's most charming towns and distinct views and relaxing spots. It's because it has two fascinating buildings, one of which is the Campo dei Miracoli complex, which is, in its own right, is resplendent and grand. And standing there next to it is the beautiful and abnormal Leaning Tower of Pisa. It's not every day you see an 8-story building that's casually leaning. Lucca has some other grand infrastructure, like the walls of Lucca. There you can take a walk just to see some amazing sights. Other incredible places include Baptistery, Campo Santo, and the cathedral. Number 6. Pompeii. I mentioned that Mount Vesuvius was responsible for the destruction of some certain places. By now you're starting to put the pieces together, aren't you? This is Pompeii, a city that got destroyed due to a volcanic eruption in 79 AD. Since then, it's been an archaeological site, with excavations occurring as late as the 18th century, and now it's a fascinating area for people to explore. There's the antiquarium, which is like a museum that contains excavated artifacts that are too fragile or heavily prone to weather. Hence, it stays in the antiquarium. There's also the Forum, which is the principal square in the city. It has old temples and shrines dedicated to the pagan gods of Rome. Other places include the Stabian Baths, Teatro Gradro, and the Amphitheater, the House of the Veti, and House of Menander, and a host of others. As a bonus, you can also visit, unlike Pompeii, that mostly got destroyed by volcanic ash. Herculaneum was mostly lava, but still Herculaneum has some fantastic locations and attractions. Number 5. Lake Como. Welcome to Italy's most beautiful lake, Lake Como. It's situated near the sublime town of Como. They make up the perfect spot for a getaway, especially during the summer. Everything in Como just screams relax and enjoy yourself, from the evergreen landscape to the soothing waters. It's the ideal chance to get away from it all. You can visit places like the Bellagio, which have some of the best decorations you'll ever find. You can even ride the funicular, which has a great view of the city. You can go hiking, swim in the lake, and just basically explore this fascinating town. Como is just great for a vacation, and like many Italian cities, it has great historic buildings and features littered around the city. Number 4. Milan. Milan is honestly the most underrated city in Italy. Most people don't consider Milan as a destination because of the airport, but Milan has some of the finest collections of art you'll ever see, as well as architecture, and is the perfect place to do some shopping. Milan has been blessed with the works of the legendary artists of old like Donatello, Michelangelo, and the amazing Leonardo da Vinci. Some of his works, like the Last Supper, fills the walls of a monastery known as Santa Maria della Grazie. One of Milan's most classical buildings is the Il Duomo, a massive cathedral like you've never seen. Its sheer size and stature is jaw-dropping. There's also the Opera House of La Scala. If you want to shop, you can visit Galleria Vittorio Emanuele. It's full of shops and cafes. Some other great places are the Pinacoteca di Brera, Castello Froseco, Sant'Ambrogio, and many others. Number 3. Venice. Well, we've arrived. I'm sure you've heard so much about the famous Venice, a city whose streets are literally made out of water, so prepare to get wet if you're visiting. I guarantee that Venice is unlike any place you've ever been to. It's conspicuously different, for one thing. You don't get too many bus rides in Venice. You get a boat ride. You get to go on the gondolas and enjoy the view, which is absolutely spectacular and heavily romantic. So be sure to bring that special someone on your trip here. You can take a cruise through the San Polo, Ponte di Rialto, and the Grand Canal. Honestly, Venice is so crowded year-round, and there are so many things to do that it's hard to choose. The main attractions in Venice are the Basilica of St. Mark. It's easily recognizable, and there's not much that needs to be said about this church. It just speaks for itself. Next, there's the Doge's Palace, with its sleekness and Byzantine treasures that were bought back by Venetian travelers. I'm sure you've seen Piazza San Marco or St. Mark's Square. Known not for its looks or build, but for the number of pigeons that reside there constantly, it's in so many movies that it almost feels like a fictional place now. But like many of the places you see, it's all real, and you don't want to miss them during your time in Italy. Number 2. Florence. If there's any place that presents some of the best that Italy has to offer, it would be Florence. Not only does it have some of the best art in the country, but the whole place just feels like a giant art museum. There are so many great buildings and artworks scattered around the city that it's almost impossible to list them all. There are almost a dozen art museums, countless cathedrals and galleries, and that's not even half of what Florence has to offer. Go check out the Uffizi Palace and Gallery, Loggia dei Lanzi with its amazing sculptures. There's also the Academy Gallery, where you'll see the famous statue, the David, and other works from Michelangelo. And then there's the Palazzo Vecchio, Pitti Palace, and Santa Croce. Another place you have to visit is the Ponte Vecchio. It's one of Florence's most prettiest places, with its bundle of shops and odd style of housing. But perhaps the most famous sight in Florence is the Piazza Duomo. you'll get to see the baptistery and the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. It's a spectacle to behold, even if you're not particularly religious. There are still many other great places you can visit in Florence, but honestly that would require another video, so this will have to do. Now let's move to a place that I'm sure it's been on everyone's mind. Number 1. Rome. What's there to say? It's on everyone's bucket list to see when they visit Italy. Rome isn't just part of Italy, it's part of every country on the planet, and its influence as well as its history is felt globally. So when you're in Rome, you're going to want to do as the Romans do. Check out the Centro Storico and the Spanish Steps. It's known for its showcase of Roman art. Its ever-crowdy and lively squares, churches, and resplendent palaces. Other sites are the Roman Forum and the Trevi Fountain, a place where tourists throw a lot of money daily. You can also check out the Parthenon, a structure that has stayed remarkably intact even though it has suffered various alterations and demolitions throughout the millennia. Then there's the Colosseum. As the Statue of Liberty is to New York, the Eiffel Tower to Paris, so is the Colosseum to Rome. The history of the Colosseum is known far and wide. It was built during the time of Vespasian in AD 72 and expanded by his son Titus. The Colosseum was a place built to host a lot of activities like theatrical performances, festivals, circuses or games, and of course gladiator battles. As a double feature and a bonus destination for our video, we will show you the country that's within a country that you can visit. We're talking about the Vatican, the holy place that's ruled by the Pope. This is the smallest state in Europe. It has a total of 0.44 kilometers square, and inside its wall lives approximately 1,000 people. Within the Vatican City, there are numerous interesting attractions to visit, but the best are the following: St. Peter's Square, Piazza San Pietro, St. Peter's Basilica, and the Vatican Museums, where the Sistine Chapel is located. Well, that's it for this video. There are still so many great places to see in Italy, but there are some of the best. Let me know which of these are your favorite places in Italy and leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thank you so much for watching.